podcast by wrestling fans for wrestling fans. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. And welcome to a special Summerslam edition of the Power of Pro Wrestling podcast, the podcast by wrestling fans for wrestling fans. This is Robert Red, and for this very special edition, I'm going to be rejoined by my cousin Kevin, better known as The Godfather. How you doing, Godfather?
Oh, yeah, Robert Red, doing good, brother.
You killing me, cuz. You killing me. Well, on this episode of the podcast, since this is going to be a special SummerSlam edition, we're going to talk about SummerSlam. We're going to start by doing our top 5 SummerSlam moments. I'm going to try to do mine in order this time. I normally don't. We're going to talk about 5 SummerSlam news stories. We're going to actually be talking about the John Cena Seth Rollins match and 2 championships. We're going to be talking about some our predictions for SummerSlam. We're kind of a few days away at the time of this recording. And we're also going to do a good booking, bad booking segment to close it off. So like I mentioned, we're going to start with our favorite top 5 SummerSlam moments. So I'm going to kick it to you, Godfather, first for your number 5.
My number 5 is going to have to be Brock Lesnar versus The Rock, 2002, is the year I graduated high school. But to me, this really kicked off Brock Lesnar as a WWE superstar. At the same time, this kind of sent The Rock out on a swan song. So I think it was a real significant match at the time.
Okay. I do agree with you. I do enjoy that match. My number 5 is going to be kind of a throwback, and people are going to laugh at me, but it's going to be Honky Tonk Man and Ultimate Warrior from 1988.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a throwback.
That's a throwback. And really the reason I love this match, I mean, Warrior has been painted negatively in the earlier part of WWE's history. Since his passing and death and closer, they've kind of changed their tune and picture. At this time, you had the Honky Tonk Man. I'll kind of tell why I like the match. You had the Honky Tonk Man, long-reigning Intercontinental Champion, comes into SummerSlam that year, 1988, makes an open challenge to anyone to face him for the Intercontinental title. Out comes Ultimate Warrior. His music hits, starts running to the ring. Fans are going all rapid. And I think 90 seconds, I might need to check.
Wow, 90 seconds.
He beats Honky Tonk Man and becomes Intercontinental Champion. So it was a very significant, great moment for Ultimate Warrior, and I feel a great moment for WrestleMania. So let's move on. Number 4 for you, Kev.
Number 4 has got to be Triple H versus The Rock, ladder match, Intercontinental Championship, 1998. To me, this right here was the match that kicked off the Rock and Triple H feud. This carried them. Triple H finally got the upper hand on the Nation of Domination. That was the time of the DX Nation Domination rivalry was going on. But to me, this is what started the Triple H Rock feud that led all the way from into 99, late part of 99, into 2000, when they were the main 2 competitors for the World Wrestling Federation Championship.
Awesome. That was a good moment, too. It didn't make my list, but my number 4 I've got, not necessarily quite a throwback. It's going to be a little bit newer. Well, it'll be newer in comparison to the Honky Tonk Man, Ultimate Warrior.
Yes.
But we're going to go year 2000, which the TLC match from the year 2000, Dudley's, Hardy's, Edge, and Christian. And I enjoyed this match. It was an action-packed match, but more for the significance of, I believe this was actually the first labeled TLC match.
Yes.
They did have matches before that were kind of TLC similar, but this was the first one that they actually called
yes, I think you're correct on that.
TLC. So with that, go to your number 3 moment, cuz.
My number 3 has got to be 2003 Elimination Chamber. The fact that Goldberg did not walk out of SummerSlam with the World Heavyweight Championship, to me, was one of the most horrible booking decisions they made in 2003. I mean, I hurt Triple H. This was their chance. They built Goldberg up. They brought him back. He beat The Rock at Backlash. I picked this match for the simple fact is that Goldberg, I felt, dominated this Elimination Chamber just to find himself laying on the mat with his pin, with his shoulders counted 1, 2, 3. This was just, it was a horrible, horrible booking decision at the end of this match.
Okay. Good choice for number 3. So my number 3, I'm actually going to go with Lesnar Rock 2002. So I'm going to go with what you did. The reason I like the match is, like you said, for the very significance of the match. You had very rising Brock Lesnar. You had the 2002 debut, if I have my years right. Comes in, just starts beating up on people, wins King of the Ring that year. That actually earned him the right to face The Rock for the Undisputed title at 2002. And then just to have Brock Lesnar beat the biggest star in company history. Well, I should say second biggest because Stone Cold is...
That's true. Stone Cold at that time. Stone Cold was the biggest. But they were trying to move on from the Attitude Era as quickly as they possibly could.
Yeah, so it was to the significance of making Brock Lesnar the man and the guy, which you're going to kind of see with my number 2 and number 1 picks kind of played a factor into that. It was just the making of a new guy and a new guy getting over. So you're number 2.
All of mine, I want to say this, by the way, all of my 5 at SummerSlam is significance, not so much of the match quality or the impact of the match or the intensity of the match. Mine, all 5 have been chosen from how significant these matches were in SummerSlam. My number 2 has got to be Alberto Del Rio cashing in on CM Punk after he defeats John Cena in the title versus title match. To me, this right here was just a proven spit in CM Punk's face. He was over at the time. This is after the pipe bomb, after the Money in the Bank. This, to me, was them trying to do everything they possibly could to try to derail CM Punk. But now, after this, though, CM Punk goes on his, record-breaking title run and everything. But to me, this right here was a halt. It halted that up. He should have walked out there with the confetti in his face, with his 2 belts in the hand, in the air with his arm raised. To me, this was just poor booking.
Okay. Well, actually, my number 2, since we're on the topic, is that very match. It's the WWE champion versus WWE champion, CM Punk versus John Cena. And that actually, for people who want to go back and watch the match, it was 2011. And it's like you mentioned, this really started at Money in the Bank. In like the few weeks, we had the infamous pipe bomb in Las Vegas, or everything that blew him up even more, that brought him to the stratosphere, the forefront. Yes. He gets the number 1 contendership. Going in, Vince McMahon really doesn't want to because, and he even says CM Punk, I don't want CM Punk to have the match against you, John Cena, and even threatened to fire John Cena, I believe. John Cena
if he lost.
Yeah, if he lost, John Cena convinced them to have the match. They go in the match, they try a screw job of the match at Money in the Bank. Doesn't happen. CM Punk wins, walks out with the title. And a few weeks later, comes back after Rey Mysterio's crowned the new WWE champion because they vacated, because CM Punk left. John Cena beats him same night, and then you have CM Punk come back to set up for the SummerSlam match. And just that SummerSlam match, just like you said, the significance and importance of it, having CM Punk, he wins, and then the cash in by Alberto Del Rio, which, like you mentioned, a few months later, CM Punk goes on to get the record-breaking 434 days.
Something like that, yeah.
My numbers may be off, but just the significance of that match right there, the title for title, kind of like they're doing this Sunday at SummerSlam. So, your number 1 moment.
My number 1 moment to me is 2004, Randy Orton defeating Chris Benoit. To me, neither one of these superstars in this main event, this match, ever got the momentum back that both of them lost by this. The fact is, Randy Orton lost momentum by defeating Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit lost momentum by losing to Randy Orton. Neither superstar recovered for quite some time. Yeah, Randy Orton is the Viper now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he never got himself back up on that horse. But this really derailed him 2 or 3 years from where he could have been had he never won that championship too early, because it didn't really get the big, long payoff. He lost the belt in a month of Triple H. Chris Benoit never recovered from this whatsoever. And to me, it was just a poor main event, poor booking decision.
Okay, so that's your number 1 moment? Okay.
That's my number 1 moment.
My number 1 moment, a lot of people may or may not like this, but I'm going with Daniel Bryan, John Cena 2013, just a couple years ago. And the reason is pretty apparent and clear. It's like I said earlier in this podcast, of just the significance that this played into Daniel Bryan and making him a star. We had a very similar thing with that we had with CM Punk a couple years ago. Mr. McMahon didn't really want John Cena to defend the title against Daniel Bryan because he didn't fit that corporate image. He's a B-plus player. That's been said ad nauseum on television. And he didn't want John Cena to face him for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. So, you had the match, goes in, Daniel Bryan, almost, I guess, the underdog, goes in and wins it and becomes WWE Champion. And then you have Triple H turns on him, kicks him, pedigrees him. Randy Orton does the cash-in, 1, 2, 3, becomes the new WWE champion. And then we're off to the races.
Yeah, that built up Daniel Bryan going into
WrestleMania. So, I mean,
that started it all for his run.
And the Authority being formed, like we were talking before the podcast, and just the rise of Daniel Bryan from that match, it made him a main man. And he's probably, the biggest superstar right now in WWE. And if you just
for
saw
someone who
Raw,
doesn't even wrestle right now,
yeah,
that's
someone
true.
who doesn't even wrestle. I mean, he goes overseas and people are just yesing him. And coming out for the Miz TV segment, people were just yesing him on Ryback coming out, just yesing him. He's just the significance and the importance of the moment is why I picked it as my number one moment. So with that, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back right after this.
This is Cornbread Chris Heineken. You're listening to the Power of Pro Wrestling Podcast.
And it's now time to go outside the ropes on the Power of Pro Wrestling Podcast. So I'm still joined by the Godfather, Kevin, for this. And we're going to talk about 5 SummerSlam-related news stories. Now, usually when I do the Outside the Ropes, it's news stories from the week. But since we're recording this so early in the week and stuff, there's not a lot of news stories. So some of these may have happened this week or may have not happened this week. But we're going to start off with the very first news story. And it's been announced that ESPN, Jonathan Coachman, if you remember, he was a former WWE commentator and
yes,
on
coach.
WWE, the coach, and he is going to be covering SummerSlam. So kind of my thoughts or question to you, Godfather, is do you feel this is a good thing for WWE being spotlighted and highlighted by ESPN?
Anytime that you're getting any type of viewership outside your normal wrestling crowd is always a good thing for business. I mean, you got ESPN, worldwide leader in sports, is covering SummerSlam for you this year. I mean, it just shows you that they're breaking into some new grounds here and they're getting a lot more exposure than what they normally would have. Even getting the coach to be the one that's doing that just makes it even more because he was he's a former WWE guy, so that just kind of gives it the extra little spin on it. But this, to me, it's just all good. I don't see there's anything bad going to come from this whatsoever.
And I definitely agree. And I mean, just to echo the points that you made earlier about that, ESPN, they're about sports. So, I mean, for the longest time, they have felt that wrestling wasn't necessarily a real sport or a true sport. So, with that, ESPN covering WWE, it's like you mentioned, having that greater exposure or more eyes on your product. This is SummerSlam. Yeah, it's more buzz. And, I mean, you have Stephen Amell there to help get that crossover audience, to grow your audience, and you're even building SummerSlam as being 4 hours long, like almost on par with WrestleMania. So, I mean, having ESPN, like you said, I feel does nothing but help WWE and building SummerSlam.
In every way, just helps build it
credibility.
up. I think it's really helping them with this 4-hour build now. I think ESPN's coverage is really just going to help them try to sell that a lot more.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're going to move on to our second topic, which is The Rock possibly appearing at SummerSlam.
If you smell.
Yeah. It is rumors that The Rock is going to appear at SummerSlam or is going to be around in the New York area during SummerSlam weekend. Do you see Rock maybe appearing on the pay-per-view? Do you feel he's there for another appearance? And do you feel The Rock would be beneficial to the show?
Okay. I don't want to spoil for the bold predictions later, but I feel The Rock will be at SummerSlam. He will play a part, not just a part, a significant part in the main event of SummerSlam.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, I do see Rocky potentially, if his schedule is free, appearing at SummerSlam, and like you said, he could possibly do something in the main event because, I mean, he does have history with Brock Lesnar, and that could lead to...
You have to remember, The Rock showed up at a live house show in Boston because he was in the area one time. If The Rock is even anywhere close to New York, he is not going to miss the opportunity to show up and show his face, and the great one will be at SummerSlam.
Yeah, and I mean, and with that, I do feel him being on SummerSlam would even give it more added value.
Yes.
Make it even more must-see to get people maybe even to get subscriptions.
I think you're going to
to
get people
the
get subscriptions just to catch it if they missed it. Once they found out The Rock was there, then they're going to hurry up and try to go pay that $9.99 to see The Rock in the encore presentation of SummerSlam.
Yeah, I do agree. I do feel it's going to move subscriptions. Now, number 3 is going to be dealing with someone who's possibly not going to be at SummerSlam. For the longest time, it was rumored that Sting was going to be at SummerSlam.
Disappointed.
And I'm going to be involved in the Wyatt and Reigns Ambrose match. So Sting's not appearing at SummerSlam. Do you feel that he would have helped SummerSlam, or do you feel that him maybe waiting until the next night after SummerSlam is the best thing? So I just want to get your thoughts on that.
I feel like that you cannot have too much star power for SummerSlam. This is supposed to be the second biggest event of the year for them outside of WrestleMania. If you put all your eggs in one basket of WrestleMania, I feel like you've only used Sting for a short amount of small, maybe appearances. This is a waste. This is a perfect opportunity to bring him out, get him involved. You get a bigger buzz around SummerSlam because you're trying to sell a 4-hour card when it's normally been, 2.5, 3 hours at the most?
Yeah, about 3 hours.
About 3 hours. You're trying to sell this whole extra hour. So the more stars you can get to advertise for this, the better you're going to be. I feel like this is a wasted opportunity on WWE's behalf.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you on most points, but let me ask you this. I mean, do you feel that Sting being on the card maybe would be overshadowed by Brock Taker and then Cena and Rollins for the title for title? Do you feel he may have been overshadowed? Maybe that's why WWE didn't want him to be on SummerSlam.
Let me ask you this question, Robert. Sting, Brock Lesnar, John Cena, Undertaker were all on the same card at WrestleMania. Did he overshadow any of them at WrestleMania with the match with Triple H?
Well, I don't think that he was. So, I mean, you do make a good point there. So, I mean, with that point, maybe it is a wasted opportunity. But maybe maybe he'll be the one to appear in the main event and get involved. We never know. But
You're right.
And maybe Taker does win the match, and it sets up for a Taker Sting on the Raw afterwards. I mean,
just look at the Fastlane pay-per-view. The fact that you announced Sting was going to be there just to have a face-to-face with Triple H, how much they sold for that pay-per-view, and how many more buy rates they have for that pay-per-view. Just the announcement of him being there to have a face-to-face confrontation. They could have sold a lot more subscriptions, in my opinion. I myself probably would have bought a subscription if I thought Sting was going to be on the show. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's just how significant this is a wasted opportunity, in just my opinion.
Okay. Well, let's move on to number 4. And it was reported that Nikki Bella has been dealing with a back injury. And so with that, do you feel that her performance might be hindered going into SummerSlam and stuff like that?
Well, from watching Monday Night Raw last night and that knee to the stomach she took in the middle of the ropes, it's not going to help that back injury very much. But she didn't seem to be favoring her back any whatsoever. I mean, you would think that if she had any kind of significant back injury, she wouldn't have been in action last night on Raw heading into SummerSlam. But they would have saved her, arrested her. The fact that she was out there against Sasha Banks on top of that, then I don't see where it's going to hinder her performance any at all.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there. I mean, if she was significantly hurt, then, I mean, obviously I wouldn't have had her there, and I would have saved her for SummerSlam and let her do the SummerSlam match. So, I mean, like you mentioned, at the time of this recording, we're recording right after Monday Night Raw, all the next day. So, her performance on Monday Night Raw, she looked like she was okay and stuff. So, I mean, she may have just been working through the pain and the injury and stuff like that if she does have anything significant. So, I mean, I do agree with you on that one. Our last topic for this one was just announced yesterday that Jon Stewart is going to be host of SummerSlam. Do you feel Jon Stewart is going to be a good host for SummerSlam? Do you feel SummerSlam needs a host? Just kind of what's your thoughts on this?
I feel like it's not a bad idea, and it's not a bad thing. You're kind of bringing him in for his first appearance since the Daily Show. Well, I feel like I don't see why you wait until 6 days before SummerSlam to make this announcement, though. I mean, you made it Monday Night Raw before SummerSlam. To me, this is something that I would have had done at least 2 to 3 weeks ago, and I'd have been building it since then, because like you said, you're losing a lot of buzz and mainstream. More promotion that you can do for this 4-hour SummerSlam, the better you're going to be. Having a host for this 4-hour SummerSlam, it can't be a bad ordeal. Jon Stewart's a pretty funny guy. I mean, I think he could carry this, with the hosting. I hope it's not just him coming out there saying a few words and then you catch him in some, nonchalant backstage vigilantes. But maybe, something a little more significant than that. I don't see where it'd be a bad ordeal.
Yeah, I mean, Jon Stewart on the show, like you mentioned, and this probably can go to our ESPN coverage story that we talked about earlier, or that cross-promotional audience and then grow your audience and stuff like that. And I can't agree with, if you're going to have a host for WrestleMania, to build even more hype around WrestleMania and having that maybe have Jon Stewart, the announcement, be made even sooner than what it was. They may have waited till now because I think Jon Stewart just finished his run with the Daily Show, so that may have been the reason why they held off. But with the Jon Stewart hosting, I mean, celebrity involvement, I mean, do you feel this is going to be negative towards SummerSlam, or do you feel that
I don't feel right now that there's too much celebrity involvement. Yeah, you have a celebrity in a match, but I don't think he's going to play a significant role in that match. And you have a celebrity hosting. They're not overdoing it like they've done in the past with too much celebrity involvement. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're not hosting it in Los Angeles this year, because usually it seems like they have over the top, celebrities and movie stars and stuff like that, and it kind of shadows down the wrestling performance itself. So I feel like they've got just the right amount this year of celebrity involvement.
Okay. And that's all the time we have for our Outside the Rope segment, and we'll be back right after this.
This is Amber.
And this is Amanda. And you're listening to the Power Pro Wrestling Podcast.
And it's now time for our discussion question on the Power Pro Wrestling Podcast. I'm still joined by the Godfather, my cousin Kevin.
yo.
And our discussion question for this week is actually going to kind of revolve around SummerSlam. Now, like we mentioned earlier in the show, John Cena, Seth Rollins are going to have a title-for-title match in which this Sunday at SummerSlam, in which the winner is it's not a unification match. The winner is going to be WWE World Heavyweight Champion and U.S. Champion. So with that, let me get my wording of how I have the question, and then I'll let you take it from here. And it's, do you think a wrestler should be allowed to hold two major single titles? So kind of tell me yes or no, and kind of give your reasoning behind it.
I'm going to say yes, but not for a significant period of time. I think that if Seth Rollins wins both championships belt, this is really going to make him look legitimate as a WWE champion. It's going to make him look legitimate as a main eventer. I don't think he needs to hold the championship for a significant amount of time. Maybe he needs to drop it and they have some kind of tournament going into Night of Champions, for the U.S. Championship. I mean, they're kind of building the U.S. title up more than it has been lately. So I could see maybe a 4-man tournament finishing itself out at Night of Champions for the U.S. title. But I feel like that I don't see where he could go wrong, where they could go wrong with making him look like, because he's had a lot of weak performances, a lot of weak title defenses. If he beats John Cena, this is really going to significantly put him over as a WWE champion.
Okay, so you're okay with it in this instance with John Cena and Seth Rollins and giving a credible win. What if it wasn't a John Cena, Seth Rollins thing? What if it was just two run-of-the-mill opponents that were going for two titles? I mean, would you be okay with it? Just in any scenario, would you be okay with
not
guy?
Just in any scenario. Not just with any guy, not with just any pay-per-view, and not with just any scenario. It has to be the right scenario and the right guy going over to win both championships to me. It has to make sense, or it's a bad business move.
Okay, well, I agree with you on this point that it has to be the right scenario if they're going to have two titles and maybe not hold it for long. Like if you look at Goldberg back in, I believe, 98 when he won both belts,
that's correct.
They had him drop the U.S. title, or he could only be the one champion guy. So, I mean, I do not like that a guy holding two belts at the same time, because I feel it takes away from one of the other belts and stuff like that. And I even wanted to bring this up, and I'll get your thoughts on this. You probably don't watch Ring of Honor a lot or stuff like that, but right now they have Jay Lethal. He won at Best of the Best of this year. It was Jay Briscoe was their world champion, Jay Lethal TV champion. Winner got both belts, and Jay Lethal is now holding both belts and then having to defend both belts. Are you okay with that scenario?
See, right now, like a TV championship, and this ain't no offense to the U.S. Championship, as much as they've tried to build it up, it's always going to be second fiddle to the Intercontinental Championship in WWE. So the U.S. Championship right now is more of like a European Championship, okay? In the past, there's been people that's been European Champion, Intercontinental Champion at the same time. Or there's been people that's been WWE Champion, Tag Team Champion at the same time. Either way you look at it, if somebody's a dual champion that is taking a belt away from another superstar at the time. But it just depends on if the situation is right, if the right time calls for it, okay? Because in the past, they've used the tag team titles to get on a guy with the singles championship just for progressive storyline, and then drops it shortly later. I myself would like to see Seth Rollins walk out on Monday Night Raw holding the WWE Championship and United States Championship. Goldberg held the belt no more than that night, holding the belts up for photo ops. You never seen him with the U.S. Championship belt after that. So he didn't really significantly hold both titles. I want to see Seth Rollins come out with the belt to give him that legitimate look, to give him that, what do you want to call it, make it, put him over as a WWE champion. I really feel like this is the right moment, the right time for John Cena to drop the U.S. Championship. If he didn't drop it to Kevin Owens, then he's got to drop it to Seth Rollins. Okay,
well, to kind of continue my discussion of the whole guy holding two singles titles, I'm actually unless like you said, unless the situation's right, it's okay. The Jay Lethal situation that I brought up earlier, I do not like, because he has to defend both the World Championship and the Television Championship. And it's like you mentioned, to me, it takes away a title that another guy could have and progression in the storyline, and it would help out that other guy. So, and the Jay Lethal incident, I really do not like it. Now, my friend Cornbread, Chris Heineken, who's been a past guest and my co-host on a lot of these podcasts, actually likes this ideal because he says if the champion can keep the schedule and can keep it up, then he's okay with both a guy having 2 championships. So,
go back to TNA. Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe faced, and Kurt Angle won every belt there was at one time by himself. That was just ludicrous. Okay, having 2 guys holding all the belts at the same time, that's just ludicrous. That progressed nothing and didn't do anything for any one of them. So there's times when giving somebody, I mean, that was they were trying to put Kurt Angle over as their next top face guy for TNA at the time. He was new to the scene. I completely understand it, but it did nothing to progress storylines. It did nothing for either one of those guys. That situation like that, they gave one guy all the belts. It made no sense whatsoever. I think it all depends on if the situation calls for it, if it makes sense at the time, but it can't be for a very significant amount of time. If Jay Lethal is defending the TV title more than he's defending the world title, then it makes the TV title seem more significant, and it seems like a more prize to win than it does the world title. So you have to have at least that balance if he's going to be a dual champion.
Okay, and I can agree with you there. Well, that's all the time we have for our discussion question. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back after this.
This is The Godfather, and you're listening to the Power of Pro Wrestling. Oh, yeah, podcast.
And it is now time for our bold predictions here on the Power of Pro Wrestling podcast. I'm still joined by Kevin and the Godfather, so I'm going to go through the matches. I believe there's 10 that were announced for SummerSlam. And from there, we're going to kind of give our predictions of what's going to happen. So I'm going to start off with the Stephen Amell Neville Barrett Stardust match. Who you see winning and why?
Stephen Amell Neville. I don't think you bring the celebrity in just to have him lose. I mean, it's plain and simple.
I can agree with you there. Just the whole fact that you're bringing Stephen Amell, teaming him with Neville, and you've had the feud with him and Stardust, and then bringing Barrett in the mix, I feel that you're going to have Stephen Amell and Neville win this one. So, I mean, it's just plain simple, cut and dry. Okay, a match that was just made last night, or made on Raw, I should say, Dolph Ziggler, Rusev. Who's your pick?
I can see Dolph Ziggler maybe in like a disqualification type form, and this is probably going to lead to like a mixed tag team match at the next pay-per-view.
Okay, I can see Dolph Ziggler winning this as well. I mean, he came off strong. So, I mean, Rusev might beat him, and then they might continue this feud a little bit longer. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Rusev win.
That's true.
So, I could see maybe Dolph Ziggler winning, but I may pick Rusev on this one.
May just see it's going to lead to a mixed tag match. I think the only reason why they didn't pull it on this one is because they got so many tag matches as it is on this pay-per-view.
Yeah, so they did need some singles matches. Okay, let's go to my birthday boy, Mr. KO, Kevin Owens versus Cesaro.
Kevin Owens.
You see Kevin Owens? Wow.
I see Kevin Owens. I see that just despite the fact that he lost to John Cena for the U.S. title, I really see a lot of big things coming from Kevin Owens. They've proven they got confidence in him. They proved that, I mean, they brought him up so fast on the roster. I feel like they're going to keep going with this. As much as Cesaro, the push is going with Cesaro, I see Kevin Owens coming out ahead on this one.
Really not taking the time to think about this one. It's going to be kind of difficult. I mean, Cesaro may win, and I'm going to pick Kevin Owens. I may regret that later on, but I'm going to go with KO as well. So let's go with the Divas triple team elimination. PCB, Team Bad, and Team Bella.
As bad as I hate to say this, I think Team Bella is going to win.
You just feel Team Bella is going to win?
I feel Team Bella is going to win because if you watch Monday nights, SmackDowns, Team Bella's been coming up short on just about every occasion. They got the least amount of wins. The least amount of wins out of all three of these teams. So I feel like that this is going to lead to them getting the ultimate victory at SummerSlam.
Okay, I wouldn't disagree with that. I'm going to pick PCB. Just for the simple fact, Team Bad's been dominant and Team Bella's been dominant. PCB has not really been getting over and stuff like that. And you have Paige, you have Charlotte, and you have Becky Lynch. I could see very well a Team PCB picking. And although Team Bad could be the surprise upset and Team Bad win. But I'm going to go with Team PCB. Okay, let's go to another match that was just made on Raw, Randy Orton and Sheamus.
I'm going to say this. If Sheamus loses, then Sheamus cashes in. If Sheamus wins, then there's no cash in. Just the same thing that I predicted at WrestleMania. With Seth Rollins losing earlier tonight to Randy Orton, this led him up. He kind of took the focus away from him, and then he cashed in, and you really didn't see it coming. But if I'm not mistaken, Randy Orton beat him last time. So I don't see Sheamus losing 2 pay-per-views in a row to Randy Orton.
Yeah, I mean, I could very well see Sheamus winning this one. I don't know, and it's like you said, probably the same situation or scenario. If he loses, I could see a cash in later on in the night. But if he wins, maybe not. So like you said, Randy Orton beating him last time. I could see Sheamus coming out with the win on this one. So let's get to our last match that's not title involved, other than the main event. Reigns Ambrose, Harper Wyatt.
Harper and Wyatt.
Ooh, you see Harper Wyatt? Okay, what's your reasoning behind that?
The reason behind that is because Ambrose and Roman Reigns has been on the upper hand in this battle from the entirety, starting at the last pay-per-view. Wyatt beat him at the last pay-per-view in the singles match, but since this has turned into like a tag team feud, I have yet to watch Harper or Wyatt get a pinfall win or submission win over Ambrose or Roman Reigns leading up into SummerSlam.
Okay.
And for the simple fact that I'm really believing that they're going to take Bray Wyatt in it, because if Bray Wyatt wins the SummerSlam, he's going to be undefeated at SummerSlam. And I feel that they're going to start trying to build somebody new to be undefeated at some point in some pay-per-view. If not, they're not going to go to WrestleMania because this belongs to Undertaker. So I feel that this is their chance to build Bray Wyatt undefeated at SummerSlam to try to progress him down the road and look to the future.
Well, I could see Bray Wyatt and Harper winning just for the simple fact that I could see Eric Rowan coming back and getting involved in the Wyatt family. And this
or Bo Dallas.
Well, someone helping the Wyatt family do like some sort of run-in and having the Wyatt family win it. So I could very well see that, and that could bring the involvement of staying in with the rumor of the Ambrose Reigns thing. So I could very well see the Wyatt family win. It would not surprise me, though, if Reigns and Ambrose won. Okay, now it's time to go for the tag titles. PTP, New Day, Los Matadores, and Lucha Dragons.
I'm going to go ahead and say prop time players on this one.
Okay.
I don't feel like it's been a significant amount of time with them having the tag titles to go ahead and make a title change yet. And with Night of Champions right around the corner, I feel like if they're going to have a tag team title change, they're probably going to do it at Night of Champions.
Okay, I can agree. I mean, I do feel like it hasn't been a long time that the PTP have had a tag title run. And so I can see primetime players holding on to the tag titles on this one. So I can agree with you there. Let's go to IC title then. Miz, Big Show, and Ryback.
I think it's kind of obvious. I think it's going to be Ryback. I don't see him losing the title yet.
Yeah, with him just coming back off staph infection and in his knee and supposed to have the match at the last pay-per-view. Ryback's coming back hot and heavy, and I don't see us getting swerved on this one. So, I mean, it's like you said, it's pretty obvious Ryback at just the momentum. And to have them beat Big Show and Miz in the same match, like you were talking about with Seth Rollins and stuff like that, it adds credibility to Ryback.
Very credibility as IC title reign.
You can start building him into the world title picture, and maybe he goes on to win the Royal Rumble in WrestleMania.
Maybe so.
Maybe that's a bold prediction.
But I feel this is also maybe a chance for them to show you why they didn't strip him of the IC title from the fact that he was out and didn't really defend it. They're going to have him just come in and steamroll through this match and say, oh, okay, Ryback is our, Intercontinental Champion.
Okay. And let's move on. On one of the big matches, the title for title, John Cena, Seth Rollins.
You know where I'm at on this one? I'm telling you, Seth Rollins walks out. I'm not saying he walks out with both championships, which I'd like to see that, but I do not feel that he is going to lose his championship this Sunday to John Cena.
I can agree. I mean, after what happened on Raw, with John Cena punking out Seth Rollins and mentioning stuff like that,
it kind of made Seth Rollins seem like he was more of the victim instead of the upper hand right now.
Yeah, so I mean, I could very well see maybe even Triple H getting involved and stuff like that.
Exactly, or Ric Flair coming back and.
Well, I don't necessarily. Ric Flair to me would be a stretch, but Triple H, the whole thing, how he brought in, how he was the mentor and stuff like that. To Triple H.
I see something's going to happen. It's going to help Seth Rollins retain the WWE Championship.
I would see that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get a clear-cut winner after this match.
That's true. Like I said, I'm not necessarily going to go ahead and go on a limb and say Seth Rollins walks out with both championships. Well, I would not be mad at that. But I do not see John Cena winning the championship. This is Seth Rollins' chance to beat another credible opponent and to make his championship reign look more legit, in my opinion.
Okay. And our main event, Brock Lesnar, Taker.
Like I said, this is my bold prediction of the week, but I feel like that The Rock is going to interfere in this main event, and it's going to lead up to Brock versus Brock at WrestleMania 32. I do not see Brock Lesnar cleanly defeating The Undertaker. If it's a disqualification win, or if he gets disqualified for maybe he starts beating up on The Undertaker way too much and The Rock comes in to save The Undertaker or something in that form or fashion, I just don't see it being a decisive win, and I see The Rock be getting involved in the main event.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with you on that. I mean, it could very well happen that someone gets involved in the main event. Rock, like we mentioned, if he's going to be there, having him used to get involved and maybe set up, like you said, for a potential WrestleMania 32 match between Brock Lesnar wouldn't be far-fetched. I mean, they could even use Sting there maybe.
Yeah, they could put Sting in that spot going against Undertaker. I feel like that they're not going to build both matches at the same time. Maybe it's a case to where Brock beats the Undertaker up until the point where he can't like move, or he's like seems like he's dead, and then The Rock comes in and saves him. That builds that match up. But then later maybe Sting comes out in a few months and provokes the Undertaker to come back, resurrect himself back up for a WrestleMania match. I mean, I can see them playing this as a few different scenarios like that. WWE really, they're all about the sizzle and like the build up.
Yeah. Going in to this match, I mean, I'm very concerned that Brock Lesnar will win this, just for the simple fact of I'm going to go back to history in WrestleMania 30 and the build-up. The Raw right before, you had Undertaker beat up on Brock Lesnar, much like happened on this week's Raw, and I came in concerned that Undertaker might lose at WrestleMania, and how right my feeling was that Brock Lesnar actually beat the streak. And I mean, and you were with me watching it, and just the face in the room, just our expressions, we were like,
we were
stunned.
Actually, half of us were talking about his next opponent for WrestleMania 31 in the middle of the match.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how we were convinced that he wasn't going to lose. I see your point on that. I just don't see where a win. This is one of those situations to where, people say the Undertaker needs a win. Well, the Undertaker really don't need a win. This is not WrestleMania. Undertaker needs to keep winning at WrestleMania. This could go either way. Brock Lesnar at this point don't really necessarily need a win. I mean, both of these guys are billed as beasts and monsters and are unstoppable. This match is being completely no contested. Would give this, everybody wants a fight at the end of this pay-per-view. They want to see these two guys fight. They know this match is not going to be a technically unsound match, so we're basically looking for the big WWE mirage of a build for a match. And what we're going to get, I think a lot of us are going to be, half going to be disappointed with it, half are going to love it. I think they're going to have to put some kind of interference in this just to get it over the hump of it's going to end up slowing down kind of early into it because of Undertaker's age and everything.
Okay, and I can agree with that. Well, that's all the time we have for this segment. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back right after this.
Hey, this is John Jones, and you're listening to the Power of Pro Wrestling podcast.
And it's now time for our Good Booking, Bad Booking segment on the Power of Pro Wrestling podcast. So I'm still joined here by Kevin, better known as The Godfather.
Oh, yeah.
And with this, I'm going to kind of give you some past SummerSlam scenarios, and you're going to tell me if this was good booking or bad booking. So I'm going to start with my number one moment that I had earlier in the podcast, the Randy Orton cash-in SummerSlam 2013. Do you feel that was good booking or bad booking?
Good booking. This really built up Daniel Bryan going into the main event of WrestleMania 30.
For the very reason you said, and I said earlier ad nauseum, that just what it did for Daniel Bryan's career, it was great to do it, so it was good booking. Okay, we're going to go to the next year. In last year's SummerSlam, the Nikki Bella heel turn on Brie.
Bad booking. I don't really feel like it done much for the one because it wasn't too long after that. Brie and Nikki were right back as teammates again.
I mean, I do agree this was bad booking. I mean, we get to look at it in retrospective. I mean, at the point, just a shocking heel turn. We didn't think Stephanie McMahon was going to win that match, and then just have the shocking heel turn from Nikki was great, but they went nowhere with it. So in the long run, it was actually bad booking. At the match was good booking to have the heel turn, but they never went anywhere with it, so it was bad booking. So how about British Bulldog defeating Bret Hart at SummerSlam 1992? Do you feel that was good booking or bad booking?
I think it was good booking. I mean, they were trying to push the British Bulldog over at the time. I think this was a good, this was the night to have him beat Bret Hart.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree for that simple fact of just us. It was almost the coming out party of British Bulldog, and if you remember, this was actually SummerSlam 92, I think I have down here, happened in the UK. British Bulldog just made a lot of sense, so it was a good booking decision. Had you went with Bret Hart, then I would have said it was bad booking, but you let British Bulldog win the IC title, hometown, stuff like that.
All the fan favorite going over at the end of the night.
Yeah, so it was good booking. Okay, we're going to kick it back to SummerSlam last year. Swagger, Rusev, and the flag match from 2014.
I think any match Rusev winning at the time is good booking. I mean, you're building him as undefeated. I think that I don't see where they went wrong with this. I thought it was good booking.
I agree with you. Any match that Rusev sends good booking, but it was a flag match. They did not do the flag match right. The purpose of a flag match is you're supposed to grab the flag and stuff like that. It's not you get a pinfall and your flag's raised. So they totally screwed up the concept of a flag match. So that's why I say it's bad booking. And to end this one, how about Lex Luger, the All-American Hero gimmick in 1993.
I thought this was good booking. They failed. I mean, it was bad booking to have him lose in the way he did and still get cheered like he won something when he won a count out. And they had him cheered up like he just won the heavyweight championship. I feel like they really dropped the ball on that, and they could have really went a lot farther with that. Lex Luger was a really good performer at the time, and I really feel like that he didn't get the just that he deserved at the time.
Yeah, and I can agree with this. I can say that they did kind of drop the ball, so maybe it was bad booking that they did not give him the title, because if you go back and watch that SummerSlam, they have the big celebration and stuff like that, like he had just become World Heavyweight Champion, and it didn't happen. He didn't win a title or anything, so I do feel that it was kind of bad booking on WWE's part. Well, that's kind of all the time we have for our SummerSlam special edition of the podcast. So is there anything you want to say before we go off the air, Godfather?
Don't you have a book coming out?
I do. I do have a book that's available now. It's entitled Reflections that I co-wrote with my other friend named Robert. You can get it on our website at lulu.com, and I'll try to leave a link in the description for this podcast. So do you have a Facebook or anything that you want to remind people on, or anything you want to say?
No, just check out the Power Pro Wrestling Podcast. It's a really good podcast. I think we're getting some really good stuff with it, and I look forward to being another guest on it. Okay, well, I look forward to having you back. So, I do want to plug that we do have a Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Power Pro Wrestling. You can find me on Twitter. It's at Robert Red Jr. I believe Robert Red Jr. is my Instagram handle. We are on YouTube at youtube.com/user/Robert Red. I'm going to start trying to put some clips of the show on there that you can check out. We do have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/ppwp. And you can go and get the podcast early, but not only that, we are doing exclusive content. At the time of the recording of this podcast, my friend Bradley, who was the guest the previous show episode, just written an amazing article on his experience with TNA wrestling and to get it back on track. But that's been all for the Power Pro Wrestling Podcast. This is Robert Red. Once again, thank you, Kevin, for being my guest this week. This is the Godfather. You're listening to the Power of Pro Wrestling.
Okay, well, I will catch you guys later, and that's all.